Yo, boys, girls, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Doofy, and welcome back to another freaking episode. Today, we are going to watch their brain. Basically talking about brain function, how it works, blah, 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 different parts of the brain. Let's get right into the freaking video. But, first you need to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button right here. Come on, it's like there. Just tap it one time, and I appreciate it. Let's get it.
Hi, it's Mr. Anderson, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the brain, structure,
Hi, Mr. Anderson.
and function. Remember, structure is what it's made up of, and function is what does it do. We sometimes refer to this as the anatomy or structure, and the physiology or the function.
Okay.
And so the cool thing is that we're going to go through 17 different structures in the brain, kind of lay out the
17
basic plan
structures.
of the brain, but
Let
you're
me just
using
put my
your
glasses
brain
on.
to process it. And if you do a good job when we get to the end and I review all the parts, you should be able to tell me what their structure is and what their function is. And so what type of organisms have brains? It's the animals.
Ooh.
Animals use nerves, they have muscles to move around, and so they have to organize that movement, and so they use a brain. And so
Understood,
if we look at the two basic body plans of
Everything
animals,
has a brain.
some are radially symmetrical. In other words, they're built around almost a tire. And then some are bilaterally symmetrical. In other words, a tiger, you could draw a line right down the middle. There's going to be a clear right side and a left side. There's going to be a clear front and end. And as we became bilaterally symmetrical, we had to organize that movement. So this is a simple animal body plan. And so this animal is going to move towards the right. And as it does,
I know exactly what animal that is. That, my friends, is a caterpillar.
so, it has to take in information. We call that sensory information using neurons.
Okay.
And so right now you're taking in sensory information from your eyes, from your ears.
Yep.
And then inside your brain, you're going to integrate that information. You're going to make sense of it. And then you're going to figure out what you want to do, how you're going to act dependent upon that.
Okay.
And
I
so
don't think that works for me. Usually I just think... No, usually actually I just do. I don't even think. I just do. Yeah.
Have this loop of motor neurons out, or motor nerves. And so this loop in simple animals is also important in understanding how our brain works. But if we look at these real primitive brain, we find that they have a real common structure. They have these four humps, and we call those the first one's not a hump, but the spinal cord. We then have the hindbrain, the midbrain, and then we finally have the forebrain. And we find this consistent throughout all animals.
Hindbrain is the
back. And if
back,
we look at something like a
mid,
shark,
the front,
it pretty much
the
looks
spinal
just
cord.
like that primitive brain. You can see down here we've got the
Ooh,
spinal cord.
that's a shark's brain. That's freaking
we
epic.
then have the hindbrain, the midbrain, and the forebrain.
Look at its
And so
front
one
bits
thing
of
you
its
should
brain.
remember is that
What?
the closer we are to that spinal
Ah,
cord,
I understand. These bits that come out here are the bits that make the eyes work. Because his eyes are so far out, he needs them to be stretched, whereas humans' eyes are right here. So that's why we don't have those big fat bumps for our
the
eyes.
more basic the functions are. And so we're right down in this hindbrain, it's going to be basically keeping the heart beating, keep the circulation going, digestion in the shark. But when a shark decides to attack you, or it has some kind of an emotional response, that's going to be way up here in the forebrain. Now, if we look at you when you were really little, when you were an embryo, you had a brain that looked very similar. You had a spinal cord, you then had a hindbrain, you had a midbrain, and then you had a forebrain. But during development, that brain changes radically. And so this is what an adult brain looks like. So we still see that spinal cord.
My favourite part of the brain is this bit, just this little nugget right here. My favourite.
We then
Love
have
nuggets.
the hindbrain, we have the midbrain, but look
That's
how
the midbrain.
large that
How small it is.
going to be.
Yeah,
So
our full brains.
Emotions
We've got big boy
and
brain.
memories and all of that
Depression
thinking
and
that we
anxiety.
generally attribute to the brain is going to be
That's why there's so much
so
of it,
let's
because
get to the actual anatomy.
it's just so big.
So there are going to be 17 parts that we're going to go through. So you should always be thinking, what's the name of the structure? Where is it? And then what's the function? What does it do? So if we look at a basic brain plan, we find these four.
Guys, just to let you know, I officially have signed my contract to start my new job. So yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to be fun. I'll be driving a German whip.
Things jump out right away. We're going to see the brain stem.
Delivery driver,
We then see a
officially.
cerebellum on the
I'm
back
working.
of the brain.
I
So
deliver
again,
car
to
parts.
get yourself oriented right, the eyes are going to be right up here, and so this would be towards the back of the head. So that's going to be the cerebellum. We then have the area of the thalamus, hypothalamus, and then finally we have the cerebrum, which is going to be that dominant upper portion of the brain. And so let's begin with the brain stem. The brain stem is broken down into 3 individual structures. So if we start at the bottom, we've got the medulla oblongata, the pons,
Adubla ambagala. Wait.
So let's begin with the brain stem. The brain stem is broken down into 3 individual
I will repeat
structures.
everything.
So if we start at the bottom, we've got the medulla oblongata,
The medulla oblongata.
the pons, and then
Pons.
we finally have the midbrain.
Porns.
So those 3
Midbrain.
things, medulla oblongata, pons,
Medulla
and midbrain,
oblongata.
called the brain stem. So that's the structure.
So it's
What's function? Well, it really does 2 things. The first thing it's going to do are these more basic needs. It's going to keep your self-breathing, keep circulation going, digestion, swallowing. All of that is going to be controlled by the brain stem. If there's any damage to the brain stem, it's going to be catastrophic. What else does it do? Then we have
Do you ever forget to breathe? Maybe we forget to breathe because our brain stem isn't working properly. Sometimes I forget to breathe.
information coming in. So we have sensory information, just like that worm did, coming up to the brain. And then we have motor nerves going out. And so the brainstem is important in routing that information and filtering that information, sending it where it needs to go. What's behind that? We have the cerebellum. The cerebellum. The function of that is motor control. So as you do sports, for example, it's the cerebellum that's giving you that.
Gives us this movement.
And it also gives you motor memory. So as you learn to
motor
ride a
memory,
and you remember how to ride a bicycle, that's going to be thanks to.
And remember how to dance.
To keep moving up, we now have the thalamus. The thalamus again, sits right on top of the brainstem. And so the best analogy I could come up with is a router. It's basically sorting data and sending it where it needs to go. If we were to look below that, there's a little structure here that's incredibly important. It's called the hypothalamus. That's going to be really right above the roof of your mouth. What is that accountable for? It's homeostasis. So it's maintaining.
Is that why when people commit suicide, they shoot themselves in the mouth because they hit that bit and they're like, and they're like dead? Should I cut that out?
Daddy, chill.
Sorry.
It's maintaining osmolarity. All of that stuff is contained right up in the hypothalamus. Also important in circadian rhythms.
Hypothalamus.
Right below that, you can see a little gland hanging out. And 1/2 of that pituitary gland, the
look like a nutsack,
is technically part of the brain, and it's important in basically sending off hormones. And so there are nerves that flow into the pituitary.
That's the bit that's broken in me. God damn it! I wondered why I never got horny before. Like fucking hell, taking the piss now. How am I going to get that bit to work?
Sending out things like antidiuretic hormone that keeps your water balance the same. Oxytocin would be another important hormone that comes out there.
Okay.
If we keep moving up, then we get to the level of the cerebrum. What's the function of the cerebrum? That's integration. So what we're doing is making sense of all that data that comes in. Now, what makes up that cerebrum are going to be all these neurons.
All those little nerve endings and shit.
Together. Billions of neurons and billions
and
trillions of synapses, connections between these neurons.
Gazillions.
And that's where we're making sense of information as it comes in. Now, if you were to look at this image right here,
brick wall.
so of that brick wall. So take a moment to look at that, and I'm going to show you some other images. Now focus on this.
That's a cat. Little kitten.
And then that.
That's a bag of weed.
And then that.
That's a puppy.
And what we find is as you look at those images, your brain is integrating. It's making sense of all that information. And it used to be a black...
Sorry. How does that make sense? A bag of weed. That does not make sense to me. What is that? Sand or dirt? It looks like a bag of THC.
And then that. And what we find is as you look at those images, your brain is integrating. It's making
not
sense
making
of all
any
that
sense.
Information. And it used to be a black
Yeah,
box.
puppy.
We didn't know really what was going on, but now we can use technology like a functional MRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. And what we're looking at here is a brain in action. So this same study was done on females, and what they would show them is something neutral like a brick wall, and then a kitten, and then something like dirt.
And the neutrons just
like
kick
puppies. And so what we're seeing is as those images are switching back
Excitement.
and forth, we can start to see where blood is flowing around in the brain, and we can start to figure out what the different parts of the brain actually do. We're able to figure out their function. So when we're looking at the cerebrum,
So why? Every time I freaking record, do I start yawning? What clicks off in my brain that makes me want to yawn during a stream? What part is that? What signal in my brain's going, yo, just yawn for the video, bro. Just freaking yawn for the just freaking yawn for the video. Just freaking
Nope.
The picture that I've showed you is from the side, so the eye's up here. But if we were to rotate that 90 degrees, now we're looking at it head on, we'll find that there are two hemispheres. There's going to be
that there is an ass cheek. This is an ass cheek, and that's an ass cheek. This is what's behind the ass cheek. Pee pee poo poo area.
a right and a left hemisphere. Now they're connected in the middle using something called the corpus callosum.
Corpus
so it's a connection
callosum.
of nerves in between the two hemispheres. And we do tend to show lateralization. There are going to be certain things that we put kind of on the left side of our brain, like mathematical reasoning and logic, and things that we put on the right side, like facial recognition. Now, this is plastic. In other words, we can move.
You know, I'm really bad with remembering names. I don't think there's a space in my head for that. I have half a brain that I think it's like the right half. Actually, it might be the left because that's where I get more eye strain. The left half of the brain, mine specifically, is just game content. It's just gaming. That's it. And the other side is mostly anxiety. But yeah.
Move these functions back and forth.
Let me know in the
You can
comments
even
below
have
what
a
parts of your
radical,
brains are
hemispherectomy,
doing
where you're
shit.
cutting one of these out, and you still have a functioning brain.
Oh, really?
Now, if we were to go right below the corpus callosum, we get into this area called the basal ganglia, and it's made up of a bunch of nuclei.
Basal ganglion?
Nuclei, or what is a nucleus in a brain? It's basically a bunch of neurons that are right next to each other that have the same function. And so all of these nuclei together make up what's called the basal ganglia. And you can see this in the
basal
corpus callosum
ganglion.
Connecting it together as well. So this is below
Basal
the
ganglion.
cerebral cortex. What's the
Ganglia,
function of that?
not
Well,
ganglion.
scientists have been able to figure out this complex interaction
cortex.
of inhibition and
From cortex back to cortex. Striatum. Striatum. Dapamin. Dapamingoligik. Yes, I can read very well. Gabagergic. Internal globus pallidus. External global pallidus. Striatium. Thalamus.
excitatory response between these neurons.
I can read them all.
Basically, it controls the
Substantia.
motor control. And if you have somebody who has Parkinson's,
Substantia nigra. That's freaking racist. That's freaking racist. That is freaking racism.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
disease, then we're having problems in this basal ganglia area. As we move farther up the brain, we eventually get to the cerebral cortex, and that's going to make up about 80%.
Cerebral
cortex.
cortex.
Into these four lobes. And so
Understood.
in the front of the brain, we have what's called the frontal lobe.
Ah.
What's the function of that? It's
Eyes.
mostly executive function. So it's kind of like the boss of your brain.
Okay.
It's emotional control up there.
Is that the
And if
back
we have
bit?
people who have
Ah,
damage
okay.
to that.
Ooh. That's why I'm so fucked up in the head. Oh, mental health is real. I tell you what, that accident I had as a kid when I fell over in the playground and smashed my head off the floor and didn't get any help for it. That's probably why I'm so fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. I probably damaged myself internally, brain tumorage.
That frontal lobe. They have really huge emotional swings. As we move back towards the back of the brain, we get to
Where are the freaking tears in that? They don't come out my eyes. For God's sake. Do they store tears? I don't have none. Can someone supply me with some tears? Sad times.
the parietal lobe.
Okay,
What's the
more.
function of
This
that?
is a bit more fun, I bet.
Basically a sensation. It's you dealing with and reacting to your environment. So we have a lot of neurons. coming
My
from
sensation's good.
sensory
Tell you that.
input. As we move to the
Tell
back,
you that.
we
I'm
have
good
the
with my hands.
occipital lobe. The function
what's
of
that
that
one?
is
Eyes.
vision, primarily vision. And then we moved onto the
That's
side.
good
we
too.
have what are
We're good
called
there.
the temporal lobe. Temporal
Temporal,
lobe
these
is going to
ones.
be important in language. It's
Aha.
important in hearing.
Aha,
It's also
okay.
important in memory. We have a lot of memories.
So my frontal is extremely fucked. My temporal, bit deaf, you know, but I speak decent English. I can't read very well, but that's a little bit fucked. My parietal, whatever the fuck you call it. That's you know, that's halfway there. It's all right. And my I can see quite well, although my eyes are shaped like rugbies. So
there, and so each of these lobes have
these
different,
glasses aren't
functions that
really
are
too
associated
strong.
with it, and hopefully
I
those
just
are
wear
the
them to stop me from getting
those functions.
eye
Now, if we were
strain.
to go inside
I'm not gonna
the
lie.
parietal zone, we find a really
I don't even really need these that much. They are officially, you know, this is where my temporal brain doesn't want to work. I can't fucking speak. My prescription, right, isn't very high. It's quite decent. It's very lowish, and my left eye's worse than my right eye. So yeah, but yeah, just use them for computers. Probably should wear them when I'm driving, maybe, if I wanted to. But I just leave them on my computer table, and then, you know, just smack them out when I'm making a video or something. You know what I mean?
important part here. It's called the somatosensory
Spend a lot of time on this
cortex.
computer.
And that's where sensory information is coming into the brain. And then on the other side of the lobe, we have what's called the motor cortex.
Motor
So
cortex?
into that
Oh my
neuron,
god.
We have information coming in, sensory
Sensory
information,
nerves?
We have motor output.
Motor nerves? Oh
And
my
so that's going to be a
god.
point of integration where we get information in,
Oh my
decide what we want
god,
to do with
Becky.
it,
I
and send that
can't
message
believe
back.
it.
Now, if we were to look at that somatosensory cortex, and
Wow.
map it along the cerebral cortex, we would find
Foot, toes.
we dedicate huge
Foot, toes, and genitals. Ooh. Leg and hip. Trunk. Trunk. Is that ass? Neck, head, shoulder, and arm. Elbow, forearm, wrist. Hands. Little ring, middle index thumb. What? Eye. Nose, face, lips. Teeth, gums, and jaw. I'm going to the dentist tomorrow. That will officially be the 19th of September 2021 at 1:30 p.m. GMT. I will be going to the dentist and having a filling in this tooth right here. See where the silver one is, look. That silver, I got a filling in that one there next to it because I've been getting some pain in it. I'm also getting like a retainer for my bottom teeth because I've been grinding my teeth in my sleep, so I'm getting a retainer.
Huge amounts of that brain surface area to things like your fingers, your tongue, your lips. In other words, we have way more neurons and way more sensory information coming in from your fingers as opposed to, for example, your back. We don't have as much of it dedicated to that on the backside. We could also use functional MRIs and then even an operation to figure out where a lot of these things are located, like speech and smell,
hearing.
But
I'm glad all
over
those
the
work.
future, we're going to get really, really good at figuring out specifically what are all the different parts of the brain, what are the nuclei, what do they do, and even mapping it down to the level of the neuron. So
Okay,
how did you
okay.
do? Do you remember those 17 different structures and
Yeah,
their functions?
all
Well, it's
17.
time to review. So let's go through it. What's this one?
That is I wasn't really watching at that point. That is connected to the spinal cord. That is for God's sake. Shit. That is something to do with your brain.
Bottom. Overall, we call that the brain stem. Hopefully you
Okay, well I don't need to remember the names. I'm trying to remember what they do.
got that. What are the 3 parts of the brainstem, though? Do you remember that? Could you pause the video
Yeah.
and say what they are?
Yeah, 3 parts of the
Starting from the
brainstem.
bottom, remember, we have the medulla oblongata.
How the
and
fuck is he
hypothalamus.
expecting people to remember this?
So that's going to be the structure.
All I'm remembering is midbrain.
Can you remember the 2 functions of the brainstem?
Ah, that was it. The functions that's the only thing I wanted to remember. The 2 functions of the brainstem. Shit. Fuck. It powers the rest of your brain.
2 big things were, number 1 is to maintain breathing,
yeah.
heart rate, digestion, swallowing, so these fundamental properties of life.
Yep, that part
What's
of
the
me is
second
fucked.
one,
My
remember,
digestion's
sort
fucked.
information going up and down.
Yes. That bit's fucked too.
What's behind that? What's that structure called?
That's called a love heart.
Cerebellum.
Cerebellum,
So what's
yeah.
the
I knew that.
cerebellum do? Remember, that's coordination, motor control,
coordination,
and also motor memory.
controls.
Do you remember what sits right up above
Yep,
the
that's the
brainstem?
midbrain. Mm-hmm.
That is the thalamus. What's the thalamus do?
it's,
Remember, it sorts information as it moves up to the upper parts
Sorting
of the
me,
cerebrum. What's
sorting my information right now.
That is the
You know my IQ is 200.
hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus, yep. Hypothalamus.
It's
Yep.
maintaining that internal body state.
I'm dumb, bro.
Do you remember what hangs off the bottom of that?
Yeah, it's a ball bag.
Posterior pituitary.
Yep.
Hopefully you're doing well.
Hey, you're fucking reading it off a computer yourself, you little mug. Look, watch him. Little prick, acting good, thinking he knows all the words. Watch him look at the computer.
That is the posterior pituitary. Hopefully.
Posterior pituitary. Hopefully you remembered that, because I fucking didn't.
You're doing well so far. If we keep going, then what is this upper portion of the brain?
That bit controls the eyes, the movements. Does it control the movements? The eyes, the eyes.
We call that the cerebrum. Okay, let's keep going into the cerebrum then. So do you remember what's that connection between the 2 hemispheres of the brain?
Look at your computer and tell us.
That the corpus callosum.
Yep, that's right. You looked at your computer and told us.
Those little nuclei that are found below that cerebrum.
He looked.
Called the basal ganglia, and they're really important in
basal
motor
ganglia.
And remember, the corpus callosum allows our hemispheres to connect.
Yeah, you keep looking at your computer, mate.
What do we call this? Highly folded upper portion of the cerebrum. That's called the cerebral cortex. Do you remember what the front lobe is called? That was pretty easy. That's called the frontal lobe. What about the yellow?
Does that mean the back is called the bactal
lobe right here?
Yes, that's the uppertal lobe.
It's called the parietal lobe.
Yep, see, and that's the lowertal lobe.
Frontal lobe, remember, is executive, boss-like functions, and then parietal is going to be sensation of the environment. What about at the end? Do you remember that? That's called the occipital.
Occipital.
And then what about at the bottom? That's the temporal. Occipital, remember, is a...
Guys, I'm so fucking stupid. I think that I am actually an idiot. Actually, my IQ isn't that low. An idiot's IQ is 0 to 25 IQ. Don't ask how I know that, but I do. If you want to find out what a moron's IQ is, get back to me next week and I'll let you know.
Location where we have vision, and then temporal
is
going to be more language, hearing, memories are there. Now there are 2 other parts in our lobe. So what do we call this area right here, and then this area right here? Those are
the left and the right.
Sensory cortex. Remember, that takes in information, makes sense of it.
I've ordered cat ears for my headset. I'll have 2 little black cat ears.
Those are those 17 structures. If you don't remember them, you may want to watch the video again, maybe make some flashcards. But that's the brain, and I hope that was helpful.
No, it wasn't, because my brain still isn't freaking working. But at least I know how to edit this video and upload it and type descriptions and all that stuff. I'm just a little bit stupid. But I built my own computer and I know all about animals. What I'm trying to say is everyone is completely different and we're all amazing in our own ways. We all learn differently. Personally, I'm a kinesthetic learner, which means I learn by doing things. So, say for example, if I was learning about the brain, rather than watching and listening to him, if he gave me like a Lego set to build a brain, I would be able to build that and remember it from doing that, if you know what I mean. I learn by doing, not listening or looking. That's basically what I am. But yeah, You guys are awesome. You're all fucking clever, and you're epic. And that's that. So this is the end of that video. Leave a goddamn like if you enjoyed this, and we'll do some more biology lessons, one could say. Yeah, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Leave me some suggestions. Doofy out. Peace, Doofinators.